Got a secret, can you keep it? Swear this one you save. Better lock it in your pocket, taking this one to the grave. If I show you, then I know you won't tell what I said. 'Cause two can keep a secret if one of them is dead.
If I play a specific sound for you, a sharp digital ding followed by the vibration of a 2010-era iPhone, your heart rate probably just spiked. That is the Pavlovian response of the Pretty Little Liars survivor. Welcome to Rosewood, Pennsylvania, a town where the police are either corrupt, incompetent, or dating the high schoolers they're supposed to be protecting. A town where a funeral isn't an event, it's a Tuesday. We need to talk about the psychological hold this show had on us. From 2010 to 2017, Pretty Little Liars, or PLL for those of us who spent too much time on Tumblr, wasn't just a show, it was a digital seance. It was the first time a television series didn't just broadcast at us, it invited us into a frantic 140 character per second conspiracy theory. The premise was the ultimate hook. 4 girls, Spencer, Hannah, Aria, and Emily, are reunited a year after their queen bee, Allison De Laurentiis, went missing. Just as they find her body, they start getting texts from a mysterious entity known only as A, who knows every dark secret they've ever kept. On paper, it's genius. It's Gossip Girl meets Twin Peaks in a Forever 21. But as we stand here years later, looking back at the wreckage of the series finale, we have to ask, at what point did the mystery stop being a puzzle and start being a hostage situation? Today, we're doing a deep dive autopsy. We're going to look at the mechanics of the phenomenon, the brilliance of the initial pitch, the weird way the characters were either deified or discarded, and the absolute audacity of a writer's room that decided logic was optional, as long as the fashion was on point. Grab your shovels, guys, we're going back into the grave. Chapter 1. The Mechanics of a Phenomenon. To understand PLL, you have to understand the era of the second screen. In 2010, Twitter was hitting its stride, and smartphones were becoming extensions of our limbs. PLL was the first show to weaponize that. Every episode ended with a cliffhanger that practically forced you to go online and scream into the void. The showrunner, Marlene King, became a sort of digital god. She would drop cryptic clues on Twitter, a picture of a doll, a line of dialogue, a blurry shot of a pair of shoes, and thousands of teenagers would spend the next week writing 5,000-word manifestos on why this meant Aria's dad was actually the killer. The show rewarded obsession. It turned us into stand detectives. We weren't just watching a story, we were trying to beat the writers at their game. We had spreadsheets, we had height comparison charts for stunt doubles. We were analyzing the reflection in a character's sunglasses to see if we could spot a production member in a black hoodie. But this is where the mechanics became predatory. The writers realized they didn't actually need an ending, they just needed to keep the engagement high. They learned that a shocking reveal, even if it made 0 sense, generated more buzz than a logical progression of events. They were playing a shell game with the audience. Every time we thought we were close to lifting the cup and finding the ball, they just added 10 more cups and a new character we'd never met before. The art of the secret became the art of the stall. Chapter 2. The Perfect Pitch. Desperate High Schoolers. Let's give credit where it's due. The first 2 seasons are actually fantastic. The setup provided by Sarah Shepard's books and the initial series development by Alloy Entertainment was corporate alchemy. They took the secretive suburbia vibe of Desperate Housewives and filtered it through the hormonal high stakes of high school. The show worked because the secrets initially felt like things that actually mattered to a teenager. Having your parents' marriage fall apart because of an affair, struggling with your identity in a conservative family, feeling the pressure to be perfect while your home life is a mess. These were real horrors. A wasn't just a stalker. A was the physical manifestation of the fear that everyone would finally see who you really were. And then there was Allison. She is one of the most fascinating characters in the history of teen TV. She was a 14-year-old girl who operated like a mob boss. She didn't just have friends, she had collectibles. She understood the power of information better than the CIA. In those early flashback-heavy seasons, Allie was Rosewood's Voldemort. Her ghost was everywhere, and she was terrifying. But as the show moved away from these grounded, psychological stakes, it drifted into a weird, pseudo-superhero genre. By season 4, these girls weren't just students, they were surviving underground bunkers, escaping saw traps, and dodging literal explosions. They stopped being liars and started being the Avengers, but with worse communication skills. The show traded the intimate horror of a secret for the Michael Bay version of a mystery, and it lost its soul in the process. Chapter 3: The Character Autopsy. Stagnation versus the Hastings Hive. If you rewatch the show now, the power imbalance within the cast is staggering. It didn't take long for the writers to realize that Troian Bellisario, Spencer, was operating on a completely different level of acting than almost everyone else. So they did what any rational writer would do: they made everything about Spencer. By the halfway point, the show was essentially Spencer Hastings and the 3 disappearing roommates. If there was a major plot twist, it was hidden in Spencer's family tree. If there was an emotional breakdown, Spencer got the Emmy reel. Spencer carried the narrative weight of Rosewood on her back for 7 years, and frankly, she deserves a pension for it. Meanwhile, the other girls were often left with the narrative scraps. Emily Fields was the show's emotional punching bag. Her entire arc consisted of A, murdering her girlfriends, or her parents moving to Texas. She spent 7 seasons looking confused while the plot happened around her. Hannah Marin had the most potential for growth, moving from an insecure girl with an eating disorder to a savvy businesswoman. But the writers often used her as the funny one to diffuse tension, rather than letting her lead. And Aria Mortimer is the most isolated character I've ever seen in an ensemble. Because her storyline was almost exclusively tied to Ezra Fitz, she might as well have been in a different show. When Spencer was uncovering secret underground sanitariums, Aria was worrying if her teacher boyfriend liked her new earrings. But the biggest character assassination was the return of Allison. Allie's return should have been the endgame. Instead, the writers didn't know what to do with a living, breathing psychopath who had to be one of the good guys. They neutered her. They turned the girl who could bring a grown man to his knees with a single whisper into a woman who wore beige cardigans and got tricked by a guy named Archer Dunhill. It was a tragic end for a legendary villain. Chapter 4: The Rosewood Rabbit Hole. Abandoned Plots. We need to address the retraction doctrine. PLL had a chronic fear of commitment. The show would give us these earth-shattering reveals. Toby is A, Ezra is a stalker, only to spend the next 3 episodes desperately walking it back. Oh, Toby was just a double agent because he loves Spencer. Oh, Ezra wasn't a predator, he was just writing a true crime book about the girl he was dating. When you tell your audience that every truth is actually a lie for a good reason, the audience stops trusting you. You aren't outsmarting us, you're just refusing to write a coherent story. Then we have the literal dead ends. Let's talk about The Barrel. For an entire season, the show centered on a 55-gallon drum in a storage unit. We were convinced it was Mona's body. We theorized about the chemical composition of the air in the unit. The reveal? It was just pig parts, a literal season-long red herring that went nowhere. What about Maya knew? Mona literally gave Aria a code that said Maya knew something crucial. We spent years wondering what it was. Did she know who A was? Did she know where Allie was? The answer? Nothing. The writers admitted in interviews later that they just liked the way the code sounded. This brings us to Bethany Young. Bethany Young is a human-shaped plot hole. She was introduced as the other girl in the grave, the girl who wore the same outfit as Allie, the girl with the connection to Radley. She was the linchpin of the entire Radley Sanitarium mystery. And in the end, she was just some girl. No real motive, no deep connection, just a body to fill a plot requirement. This is the central failure of Pretty Little Liars. The show treated its audience like gold prospectors, promising us that if we just kept digging, we'd find the mother lode. But after 7 years of digging, we realized the writers were just burying more dirt on top of us.
Cashmere sweaters.
I found the gum.
You didn't call Hannah, did you? Because you're A.
Congratulations, Spencer. You figured it out.
Chapter 5. 72 Hours in November. The Broken Timeline. We need to discuss the physics of Rosewood, because time in this town doesn't work the way it does in our dimension. Fans famously call it the never-ending November. If you look at the show's internal calendar, seasons 3, 4, and the first half of season 5 all take place between Halloween and Thanksgiving of the girls' senior year. That is roughly 72 episodes, covering about 25 days. Think about that. Every kidnapping, every house fire, every hospital visit, every fashion show, and every high-stakes police interrogation we watched over 3 years of our actual lives happened in less than a month for the Liars. This isn't just a fun oops on the part of the continuity editor, it's a narrative disaster. Because the timeline is so compressed, character development becomes a literal impossibility. Take Toby Kavanaugh. In the span of what is apparently one long weekend, Toby decides to become a police officer, goes to the academy, graduates, and gets a badge. He becomes a fully vested officer of the law faster than it takes most of us to get a package from Amazon. Then there's the emotional weight. Hannah struggles with an alcohol problem in season 5. In real time, this lasted for months of episodes. In Rosewood time, she was a heavy drinker for about 48 hours before she got better. When you crammed that much trauma into 3 weeks, the characters stop feeling like humans and start feeling like crash test dummies. The show demanded we feel the growth of these women, but the internal logic of the clock told us they were just having a really, really bad Tuesday. Chapter 6. The Ezria Illusion, Perception Framing, and Bad Ethics. Now we have to address the elephant in the room, or rather, the English teacher in the apartment, Ezra Fitz and Aria Montgomery. During the show's run, Ezria was one of the most popular ships in television history, but looking back with an adult lens, or even just a basic moral compass, the way this relationship was handled is arguably the show's greatest sin. The writers didn't just depict an inappropriate relationship, they marketed it as the ultimate romantic ideal. The show used a technique called perception framing. Every time Ezra and Aria were on screen, the lighting got softer, the acoustic indie pop started playing, and the dialogue pivoted to how special and mature their connection was. They framed the world as the villain for trying to keep them apart, rather than framing Ezra as the predator for pursuing his 16-year-old student. The absolute peak of this manipulation happened in season 4. The show finally gave us the truth. Ezra had met Allison when she was an underage girl, and he had been stalking the Liars since the pilot to write a true crime book. This was the perfect out for the writers. It justified every creepy vibe he'd ever given off. but the fans revolted. They wanted their ship back. So the writers did the unthinkable. They made Ezra a hero again. They had him take a bullet for the girls, and suddenly the stalking was forgiven. The Predator label was swapped for Misunderstood Writer. By the series finale, they get married, and the show treats it like a fairy tale. It tells a young, impressionable audience that if a guy stalks you and lies to you for years, it's actually just passionate research because he loves you. It's not just bad writing, it's genuinely irresponsible. Chapter 7. Outsmarting the Logic, the Marlene King Doctrine. As the show entered its final seasons, the relationship between the writers and the fans turned into a literal arms race. The fans were getting too good at solving the mystery. They were using logic, clues, and 2,000-word Tumblr posts to accurately predict that Cece Drake was A, or that Ren was involved. Instead of leaning into a logical conclusion, the showrunner, in Marlene King, decided to prioritize the shock. The goal wasn't to write a mystery that made sense. The goal was to write a mystery that nobody could guess. But if a mystery is unguessable, it usually means it's not a mystery. It's just nonsense. Take the big A reveal of Cece Drake. Vanessa Ray gave a phenomenal performance, but the actual explanation broke the show's timeline. It contradicted things we had seen with our own eyes in earlier seasons. When fans pointed out these massive plot holes, the response from the production was essentially, "You're overthinking it." And then, the series finale. After 7 years of theories about secret twins and hidden identities, we got Alex Drake, Spencer's secret British evil twin, who bannealed in a sanitarium and moved to London to work at a pub. A character we literally had never met until the final 2 hours of the show. It was a Deus Ex Machina ending that felt like a slap in the face. The most damning piece of evidence for the failure of this era is that Marlene King had to do a 30-minute post-finale interview with Entertainment Tonight just to explain what happened in her own show. If you have to do a press circuit to tell the fans who killed who and why, you haven't told a story. You've just left a mess on the floor and walked away. Chapter 8. The Legacy. Got a secret? Can you keep it? So after all that, the plot holes, the predatory romances, the broken timelines, and the evil twin nonsense, why do we still care? Why is there a successful reboot on HBO Max? Why do we still get a rush of nostalgia when we see the cast together? It's because, despite the writing, Pretty Little Liars captured something very real about the fear of growing up in a digital age. It was the first show to really understand that our phones are our most intimate witnesses. The bond between the 4 lead actresses was genuine, and their liar chemistry was the only thing that kept the show anchored when the plot was floating away into space. PLL was a trailblazer. It changed how networks interact with fans. It changed how we live tweet TV. It was a messy, beautiful, infuriating cultural landmark. It taught us that we love a mystery even when it's gaslighting us. It was a show about secrets that ended up having a few too many of its own, specifically the secret of how to write a satisfying ending. In the end, Rosewood was exactly what Alison Diolantis said it was, a town built on secrets. But secrets are like debt. Eventually, someone has to pay. We paid with 7 years of our time, and in exchange, we got a story that chose to be shocking instead of being true. It's a cautionary tale for the next generation of showrunners. You can lure an audience in with a question, but you have to respect them enough to give them a real answer. Rewatching the show today is like looking at an old high school yearbook. You cringe at the fashion, you laugh at the drama, and you wonder how you ever survived that much stress. But even with all the flaws, there's something addictive about that shh. Rosewood is a town where nobody really leaves, and the mystery never really ends. Because as long as we're still arguing about who deserved better and how the timeline was broken, A is still winning. Got a secret? Can you keep it? Swear this one you'll save. Better lock it in your pocket and take it to the grave. Just make sure the grave doesn't have a secret tunnel leading to a British twins underground bunker. Thanks for watching. Shh.